as African Youth Movement, before it was then called the Pan-African Youth Union in 2003 in Windhoek, Namibia. The Pan-African Youth Union is the mother body structure of the African youth in the continent, representing all the national youth councils. So we promote and we adhere to make sure that African youth rights are being defended, and of course African youth policies are implemented by the African Union, and of course to lobby also outside of Africa, including the United Nations, where I am today.
Thank you very much. And I understand you met with the United Nations Secretary General. I would like to congratulate you also for that. I think it is bringing African youth issues to the summit of the United Nations, and I think it is the way to go, especially in the new context of Agenda 2063.
Yes.
And talking about Agenda 2063, it is the new transformative agenda adopted by the AU, together with its first 10-year plan of action or implementation plan, which was adopted at the last summit. Tell us, what was the consultative process like for the African youth, and what was your role?
Well, let me also come back to the issue of meeting the Secretary General. It was an honor for us because this was on the 12th of August, on the International Youth Day, and being received by the UN Secretary General, it also proves the importance that he gives to the African youth and of course to the youth of the world. And with a very humble heart, he welcomed me in his office and he listened to me, and I had to tackle some issues affecting African youth, and also to congratulate him for the good, his achievements so far since he's the Secretary General of the United Nations, and of course the rate of his promoting the women. And if you look, he has been one of those who have made history in the UN when it comes to gender. More than 40% of women are being promoted in occupying senior position in the United Nations, and this is due to the leadership of the Secretary General, Mr. Ban Ki-moon, and this is not a simple task, and I'm glad to be part of those women that he is also promoting, because I'm a woman also and I'm a leader. So coming back to the Agenda 2063, this is a vision of Africa. This is what the African people are saying. This is what we want. This is how we want the Africa to be. This is for the Africa that we want. But this agenda cannot be really the result of what we want to achieve if young people are not involved. I would like first also to thank Madam Zuma because she made sure that in the foundations, or not only the foundation, in the drafting of this agenda,
the consultative process,
youth were really involved. Whereby myself, before I became president of the Pan-African Youth Union, I participated into the drafting of this agenda and the consultative meetings of the youth, and that was in Tunisia. So the youth of Africa met, and they gave their submission in terms to this agenda. Now that we have the agenda adopted in Head of State Summit, which was also present when it was adopted, now the question is, when it comes to youth, what are the youth policies in the agendas that are going to be the focus that are going to be implemented when it comes to the agenda? The agenda is ours, yes, the young people, and I keep reminding that the agenda is very good, but if the youth, if I can come back to that, are not involved, when they come to power, in the coming years, they might come up with their own agenda if they were not involved in this agenda. And this agenda will see no light because they do not understand it. When they're involved and when they understand the agenda, they take ownership and they can say, this is our African dream, and we want this dream to be, we want this dream to become a reality. And in the 10-year implementation plan that you have mentioned, I'm pretty much sure that there are some policies, some priorities on youth, but they are not enough. And what we are saying is that we have to ensure that whenever the African Union implement in the 10-year plan of action, the component of youth is not missing. And this is why we say we have taken ownership of this Agenda 2063, and we are going to mobilize more African youth to take the ownership and to understand what is this agenda, so that it's not just a document that we sing. It must be a dream that we live as Africans and we implement.
Thank you very much. I can tell you that here at OSA, Agenda 2063 is something that we focus on a lot, and youth empowerment is also something which we paid special attention to. Excellent. Because, as you said, the youth empowerment and advancement is critical for the implementation of the first 10-year plan of action. And in this regard, what does your organization plan to do? Because again, as you said, it has been the first 10-year implementation plan has been adopted, and now it's time for action. What will your organization do to contribute to action for implementation?
Excellent. The 10-year implementation is clear. The Agenda 2063 first priority: a prosperous Africa, a developed Africa, economic growth, and so on. Yes. But what we are saying is that we have to reduce unemployment rate of youth. And when we reduce unemployment rate, we are ensuring peace and stability in Africa. When young people are employed, we reduce the level of them being attracted to join terrorism. And extreme terrorism continue to dominate Africa. And this keeps us away from development. So when we say reduce unemployment rate from the Pan-African Youth Union, we decided to come up with a strategy of promoting entrepreneurship. When we promote entrepreneurship, which is vital to job creation, we are also contributing to the unemployment rate reduction. So what we are saying is that from the Pan-African Youth Union, we came up with an idea of putting in place an African Youth Chamber of Commerce. When it comes to this project, and when they have to support youth project, and also there's a question of capacity building of some of African youth leaders for coming up with tangible projects that can be in line with the rules of the UN in terms of supporting projects, and also be in line with what the UN, the criteria, and also the quality in which the UN is looking forward in different projects of youth on the continent. Then the countries can be able to have the young people, the young leaders, to reinforce their capacities when it comes to project development, and also they can develop projects that they will submit to the UN with their government, and then it can get support, full support from the UN. But we ask for more support from the UN agencies in different African countries where they fund the national youth councils. They support through the legal youth structures, and the legal youth structures, the legitimate youth structure in Africa of youth, according to the African Youth Charter, are the national youth councils. And when you support the National Youth Councils, you are supporting the majority of youth in the country, because the National Youth Council puts together all the youth organizations of the country. Then when you support the National Youth Council, you support the majority of young people in that country. So the UN should be very key, and it should be very careful when it comes to supporting youth organizations. You need to know what is this youth organization, how the majority of the young people in this country is going to benefit, and how can we proceed to support. So we ask from the UN to support the Pan-African Youth Union, which is the continental and very strategic youth structure in Africa that can work with all the national youth councils in tangible and implementation of so many youth projects, and we are ready for that.
Thank you very much. And indeed, in terms of the because indeed Agenda 2063 sort of emphasizes the role of Africa in its own
have very good partnership with Mr. Halendawi, the Secretary General, Mr. Ban Ki-moon Envoy on youth. We have been working closely with his office, and he's a very excellent pushing for youth agendas, connecting with African youth, going into different African countries. And as I speak, he's coming from Uganda, he's coming from Rwanda, he's coming from Tunisia, he's coming from Kenya, and he still has so many trips to Africa. And we are waiting to facilitate some of those trips and to join him in different African countries when it comes to his mission in Africa. So apart that, we have a partnership, a cooperation with Africa Europe Youth Forum. So we work closely with the youth of Europe, and we have what we call the South-North Center of Europe that we developed for the past years. Very good cooperation, and soon we are meeting again and to agree on some of the things that we can achieve together. We work closely with the Commonwealth Youth Division, which is Catherine, and others, and many of them one day in the Commonwealth Youth Division. And we are looking forward in developing a tangible project of working together and see what we can achieve together. We also work with All China Youth Federation. We just met recently in Arusha in Tanzania, where we agreed on certain things, and we are looking forward in going to China and them coming to Africa for us to develop more ways of implementing a very important project on youth, and also see how we can work with Asia and Africa. We are working with American youth. We are appreciating the project of President Obama on YALI, African Youth Initiative, Young Leaders Initiative, the Washington Fellowship, and I visited some of them in Kenya recently. More than 70 of them are being trained in East Africa under the program of President Obama, and we are appreciating the world for the support that they are giving to African youth, and we are looking forward for other partners to come on board as they support African youth. And when they support African youth, they support the future, they support the present, and they support the youngest continent on the globe, and also they support the Africa that we want.
Well, thank you. You can count on the support of the Office of the Special Advisor, whom you met this morning, and I'm sure you were able to feel the commitment and the engagement which he has with the continent, and here at the UN headquarters and with international partners. Again, welcome, and we wish you all the success in your term.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Bye.